Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Isn't it amazing that the religions which emanate from an old established religion, they are suffering from a curious love-hate relationship. Well, as long as it's a love-hate relationship, that means the umbilical cords have not been cut off absolutely. But I have seen, and you have seen, that these religions at times become almost inimical. Why almost? They are. Look at the Abrahamic religions. The root is the same. Christianity came from Jewish religion. So did Islam come out of Abrahamic religion. And all three of them are daggers drawn, especially Jews and Muslims. The origin is the same, and yet there is enmity. But then why? Within Islam, Shia and Sunni are at loggerheads all the time, and they belong to the same religion. And both of them against Ahmadiyas, the third religion, are the third sect of the same religion. The Sikhs came out of Hindu religion and they evolved from Hindu religion. And if you look at the Guru Granth, the holy book of the Sikhs, which is supposed to be the 11th and the last Guru, the number of references to Ram, to Krishna, Gopal. So much so, as I always say, that the Khalistanis adopted invocation to Shiva as their national anthem. They Shiva Varmoe. And yet there is a curious talk of divide between Hindus and Sikhs. Is it a fact or is it a fiction? Before I take up the reality of it, let me tell you that the Khalsa word, the Sikh word, is basically a Persian word. And most of the people just think it to be. A simple word means Khalis, pure. As a matter of fact, Khalsa is an anagram. The five letters in the Persian word Khalsa have a significance. And my study revealed that the first two letters, K, H, K, they respectively stand for Khud, that is oneself. Next is A, which stands for the God, Akal Purush. The third is L. L signifies Labaik, meaning following the questions of the God. What do you want with me? Here am I. What would you have? And the last is Sing Devati. Lord, give me liberty and sovereignty. Then comes S, Sahib, Lord or Master. And the last letter is written as A, and some also write H. A stands for Azadi and H stands for Huma, a legendary bird. This was the interpretation given by Persian scholars, and it does appeal. Now, as I said, that Guru Granth is replete with Hindu references to Lord, to God, to Ram, to Krishna, and Guru Gobind Singh invoked Lord Shiva. He sought the blessings of Lord Shiva. He wrote a complete epic poem called Chandi Diwar, which is an invocation to goddess Durga. The Sikh prayer starts with invocation to Bhagavati, again another name for Durga. And yet, today when you go to Punjab, despite the fact that there are very cordial relations, an inner anger runs against each other. In common people, it may not be there, but the way they mention each other shows that they consider. Why is it? Has anybody thought that Sikhs are against RSS and against BJP? Primarily because they're Hindu-Sikh party. And despite the fact that BJP has always supported Sikhs, it was Congress which was responsible for the killings in 1984 and yet the when they think of BJP, they call them Sanghis. Now, this is a reference to way back in 1950s when the thing started. But the divide did not start in 50s or after independence. No, it started way back. As a matter of fact, the first signs of strain in the community were in the third battle of Panipat. Had at that time Marathas and the Sikhs combined hands, India would have been free from the scourge of Abdali and Afghan invasions. But the Sikhs did not participate in that war. They harassed Abdali while he was going back. They rescued Hindu women from the clutches of Abdali. Agreed. But they did not participate in the war. And when the invitation went from Marathas to the Sikh chieftains, they did not accept it. That was a failure. Then, after the Sikh wars, when Punjab was annexed by the Britishers wanted to retain control on Punjab. So they started accentuating the wedge between landowning Jats, that is Sikhs, and non agriculturalists, which were basically Hindus. Do you know the Land Alienation Act of 1900? As per the records of House of Commons, it enabled the government to retain its inflexible revenue policies and continue to blame peasant proprietors' miseries on the Hindu moneylenders. So officially the act was created to create a division between Hindus and Sikhs. And it was done to pacify the landowning Sikhs and deflect a rebellion and also exploit any tension that existed between Hindus and Muslims on one side and Hindus and Sikhs on the other to keep their political grip on India. This piece of legislation was just one piece that favored dominant Sikhs at the cost of Hindus. Hence, the agriculturists were the Muslims and the Sikhs. And non-agriculturists were Brahmins, Khatris, Banyas. So, Act made tribe and caste the base of the land ownership. After I was coming to that, after the Sikh Khalsa Raj was finished and the Punjab became a part of India, one of the officers of Ranjit Singh started a movement called Kuka movement, which later on became the Narankari movement. Guru Ram Singh was an officer of the Khalsa army, but he became American, a spiritual leader. But apart from being a spiritual leader, he wanted to avenge the defeat of Punjab. So there was a politico religious one, and all the Hindus and the Sikhs flocked to him. To crush them was the mission of the Britishers at that time, and to help them came in the Sikh rulers of Fulkian states. Fulkian states were Patiala, Naba, not Mlekota, Kapurthala, Jind, and so on, these seven states. So they sent cannons to kill these Narankaris. That was the first edge, the divisive edge. Then came 1857. The Sikh army The Sikhs in Punjab refused to participate the call of joining 1857 movement because they were loyal to the Britishers. And the loyalty is clear that Man Singh, the president of Golden Temple Committee, sent a message to Lord Ripon, and it is the last word in slavery. He writes, "Our bodies are the exclusive possession of the British. Moreover, that we are solemnly and religiously bound to serve Her Majesty. That in discharging this duty, we are act according to the wishes of our great Guru. Although living far away from Her Majesty's feet, we regard the people of England as our kind brethren." It was published in the Tribune of 15th of November 1989. So this created vision. At this time, Arya Samaj also started, and Arya Samajas had a revivalist movement. They started attracting the Muslims, but they also started attracting the Sikhs. 1886, the first DAV school college was opened in Lahore. And immediately, a Hukamnama was issued for Golden Temple to build Khalsa College, Amritsar, as a reporte to DAV College, Lahore. Then, came 1898. This was a crucial time then when Baba Khan Singh published a book, Hum Hindu Nahi Hai. This book was a watershed and created a great chasm. So on one side, the Hindu revivalist movement, Arya Samaj. On the other side, Baba Khan Singh's book, Hum Hindu Nahi Hai. They created a chasm and laid down that time the passing of the Anand Marriage Act was there in 1909. So, and the Britishers too added fuel to the fire by ordering that in the army only those people will be recruited from Punjab who wear the 5K. So, Pakka Khalsas, no Sajdaris, no Mola. This book, Hum Hindu Nahi Hai, was a vitriolic appraisal of Hinduism and focused on the difference between Hindus and Sikhs. This was, of course, as I said, a resorte to Arya Samaj movement, who were against the British crown, against Muslims, and at that time Singh Sabha started. As a matter of fact, this Singh Sabha, as per MacLeod, who was a historian and one of the mainstays of the interpreters of Sikhism, he said that they wanted to have a complete domination of Sikh affairs and they crafted the new rituals. Till this time, Sikh marriages used to be taking rounds of the holy fire. But then they said, no, holy fire will be banished. They'll have to circumlate the Guru Granth. So in two, and they were the biggest chasm came in 1905. Till that time in Golden Temple, Amritsar, they were the idols of Rama, Krishna, Lakshmi, all of them. And in 1905, all these idols were removed, saying that they cannot go together. The beauty is that though the idols were removed, Golden Temple and other gurdwaras in Punjab continued to attract Hindus. Till today, if you go to Golden Temple or to in Delhi to Rakabganj or Bangla Sahib, you will see more people who are not Sikhs than those who are Sikhs. In Bangla Sahib, at least, almost 60 to 65% of the people visiting are Hindus. Then came in, SGPC in 1925, and SGPC was then controlled by Akalis into 1920. So from 1860 to 1930, the British created Hindu-Sikh divide, and they were supported by Land Alienation Act, Gurdwara Act, and exclusivity, because British wanted to build a counterpoise in Sikhs who were more virile, more assertive against Hindus. And then came independence. Things should have settled down. The divisive policies of the British should have stopped. But no. First, Tara Singh wanted Punjabi Suba. So, Punjab, and name was Punjabi Suba, where Punjabi would be the first language. States Reorganization Commission was set up. And they created a Punjab, merging Pepsu and Punjab, parts of Himachal. And Punjabi was taught, and Punjab extended up to Faridabad, Palwal. So it was all a part of Punjab. But it was being ruled by Congress. At that time in Ludhiana, a movement started of Mahapunjab. So Sikhs started a movement called Punjabi Suba. Hindus started a movement called Mahapunjab. There was a guy called Mahasha Krishan, who was an outspoken critic of Sikhism, quoting from Dayanand Saraswati. And Sikhs, of course, Tara Singh, then Fateh Singh, and others. So those two opposing movements, Mahapunjab and Punjabi Suba. And then they created Punjab and Haryana to satisfy them. Did this assuage the divide? No. Then the more militant came into being, and you remember 80s was the time. And that time, if you remember, anti-Nirankari movement was resurrected. This was a reprisal or a reawakening of anti-Nirankari, right from a, shall I say it was a reawakening of anti-Kuka movement, because some excuse has to be found, and Bhindranwala found them to be good scapegoats, as the Muslims find Ahmadiyas to be good scapegoats. So the situation still worsened. And at time, the old concept that the first child would always be Sikh, in every Hindu family, the eldest son would be Sikh, and then the others would be there. That stopped. At that time, something curious took place. These people who were demanding Punjab under Mahasha Krishan refused to accept their mother tongue as Punjabi. They said, no, Hindi is our mother tongue. They'll speak in Punjabi. Curiously, Nehru made a good statement in Parliament. He said that Sikhs say their mother tongue is Punjabi. The Hindus say their mother tongue is Hindi. But both publish newspapers which are in Urdu. That was really, really a telling statement. So language was used to create another barrier between the two. But culturally, and the continuation of the families who were both Sikhs and Hindus continued. It was more political than social. It was more for grabbing power under the guise of using religion as a cover, as a guise, than for real divide. The real divide wasn't there. And as a matter of fact, the real divide is not there today even. Have you seen how many Hindus go to Gurdwaras, as I said? And have you seen, are you aware, that no visit to Hemkund Sahib is complete till you visit the Katra Sahib, Temple Katra. They are so complementary to each other. They supplement each other. And if you look at the basics, Sikhs go to the temples, as I told, Katra is one. They go to other temples as well. Hindus go to Gurdwaras. There is no such indictment, interdictment, or restriction on them. Culturally, they're the same. They celebrate the same festivals. Though again, the divide was there. But essentially, there has not been a divide, as I said, culturally. The families continue to live in peace and happiness. So it's more a political game, at one time played by the Britishers, other time played by Congress, third time played by the power hungry politicians. But the people have not developed that sort of antipathy which Muslims have against Jews or Christians have against Jews, and all three of them hate each other. No, it's not like that. They still regard each other as branches of the same families, as brethren, as people from the same stock. And that is a saving grace. So divide is more a matter of conjecture and is foisted on the people than really being there. Thank you.